If you want some tips to colour flowers with alcohol markers and make them white, then you're in the right place. I've got this beautiful big bloom. Now, large floral stamps can be a little bit intimidating, so I am going to give you a couple of tips to use them as well along the way. First one being to use a stamp positioning tool and use a piece of cardstock larger than you need, and you'll see why a little bit later on in the video. I'm going to be using some alcohol markers to colour today, so I have used an ink that's friendly with that. This is the Memento Tuxedo Black. There are a lot of dye inks that work well with alcohol markers. And when I'm choosing my colours, I use a swatch book. And this just helps me work out a plan from the beginning, although sometimes it doesn't always kind of work out right. And if you want to download these swatches, they're free. I'll put the link in the description below. They're at my blog. I kind of wanted to do some white flowers, and of course you can't just leave them white. You need to be able to add a colour or some colours to make them look a bit more realistic and have some depth. So alcohol markers, they're not fussy. They play with each other. I've got a few different brands and I will mix and match them to make sure that I get the colours that I want. So I keep a piece of scrap paper off to the side so that I can test my colours as I'm working on the image. And to create the white flower today, I've chosen some cool greys. You can use other warmer greys if you like. I just thought the cool greys were going to give me that nice crisp white floral look here. So these particular petals on these peonies, they actually have some folds in them around the outer edge. So I'm using that to my advantage and creating some shadows and making the petals look like they have some extra folds in. You can draw these in yourself. Otherwise, if you're not confident to do something like that, just focus the shading more into the center of the flower to give it that little bit of depth. I always start lighter than I think I need to because I can always come in and add more color. The thing with alcohol markers is they do dry back pretty quickly, but you can actually oversaturate the paper. So if you're not getting a good result with your blending, it might pay to actually try a different cardstock. Alcohol markers work particularly well on a very smooth finished cardstock. So I coloured the first layer of the cool greys on all of the petals of the flower, and then I came in with a very pale grey, sort of a mauve purple colour, and this just added a bit more shadow to the image. And I'm still not happy with the depth of the flower yet, but this is a work in progress. I don't rush when I'm colouring because you can't work it out straight away. Sometimes you need to see a whole image and have the rest of the image, like the leaves and everything, coloured before you know what you need to do to finish something off. And even though the flowers don't look particularly white yet or finished off yet, by colouring the leaves in, it just gives that finished look to the whole image, and it will help me work out how much more depth I need to add to the blooms to make them look better, or more natural. I decided to do some blue greens and grey greens and green. I kind of mix throughout the leaves. I like that sort of how that tone looks with the white flowers. And I also added in some more of that, like the purples in those little filler flowers that are off to the side. Don't be afraid to add a darker colour than what you think you need, because this is actually what will give your image more life and more depth. It is a little bit scary. You can take it very slowly. You can only, if you want, just do very small areas, and you can always come back and lighten it off with the lighter colour alcohol marker if you needed to. But more often than not, you'll find that extra depth or extra darker colour can be a game changer when it comes to the finished image. And this is what I mean, to have that scrap piece of paper off to the side. I'd chosen these yellows and I did not like the way they looked after I'd finished with the greens and the greys. So because I hadn't committed and put them straight onto my image, it meant that I could change my game plan, and I used a couple of different, more sort of gold tone colours rather than the bright yellow. And this is what I mean about adding that darker colour. I'm actually adding this very dark jade green to the centre of those of the flower where the yellows are. It just gives it shadow, and it can change the whole sort of perception of the image. And kept it very simple. I will list all the products that I've used, and the colours, the numbers will be in the, if they're not in the description below, they will definitely be at my blog, which will be linked in the description below. I'm also going to add another video that I did sharing how I made some white flowers, but I did them very easily. They were die cut flowers. So rather than actually colouring white flowers, I gave you a couple of ideas on how to use die cut flowers and make some white blooms using some die cuts. So I'll make sure to link that video in the description below as well. All right, and this is why I left the cardstock larger than I needed. It just gives me options. I can work out exactly where I want the bouquet to sit on a card front. I can cut it in half and maybe make a couple of card fronts out of it. But I actually have a coordinating die for this, and I thought it'd be fun to pop it up on some design paper. I've got this beautiful, it's one of the ink drops, and it's 12 by, actually I've got a couple of them. But I decided to look really pretty, just having a background to pop the flower up on. And I did add foam behind the flower. I did want to add that dimension, and I did add foam behind the sentiment. I did want to add that dimension, and I did add just a couple of glitter drops. These are one of the ombre ones. They're really pretty. I do hope you're inspired to try colouring some white flowers with alcohol markers. Don't forget to share it with me if you do. If you did like today's video, click on the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I've got a couple more colouring videos here for you to enjoy, and I look forward to seeing you there. Till next time, happy paper crafting. Bye.